The internet is shaken right now. Not shocked, not surprised, but genuinely shaken. Because 50 Cent, one of the toughest, coldest, most unbreakable figures in hip-hop history, has finally cracked. And it took a single disrespectful video from King Harris to do it. A man who survived the streets, survived getting shot 9 times, survived betrayals, industry snakes, lawsuits, and feuds, was brought to tears talking about his late mother because of something King thought was funny. This wasn't trolling. This wasn't rap beef. This wasn't a teenager posting a joke. This was a wound reopened. In the now viral clip, King Harris, who's been spiraling publicly for months, made a comment mocking 50's upbringing, specifically mentioning how he didn't have a real mom around. The internet gasped instantly, but no one expected 50 to respond the way he did. Instead of clapping back, instead of roasting King, instead of doing what 50 is known for, he sat in front of a camera, eyes low, voice shaking slightly, and said, "You don't talk about my mother. You don't talk about a woman who's gone." The silence in the room was bone deep. For the first time, fans saw the pain behind the legend. The boy who lost his mother at age 8, the trauma he never fully healed from, the memory he's protected his entire life. And the fact that King Harris, someone young enough to be his son, dragged that trauma into the public for likes, it broke something in 50 Cent, and the world felt it. Now blogs, celebrities, fans, everybody is asking the same question. How far did King Harris really go? And why did this strike a nerve so deep that it made 50 Cent show emotion he hasn't shown in decades? Long before King Harris filmed that disrespectful video, long before the internet exploded with outrage, long before 50 Cent's voice cracked on camera for the first time in years, there was a story, a long, painful, complicated story that shaped exactly why this moment cut so deep. Because when people talk about 50 Cent, they talk about the legend, the mogul, the unstoppable force, the businessman, the savage with captions sharp enough to end careers. They talk about the jokes, the trolling, the fearlessness. They talk about the 9 gunshots, the chart-topping albums, the TV empire he built from nothing. But what they don't talk about, what he almost never talks about, is the boy he used to be. A boy named Curtis. A boy who grew up without a father. A boy whose entire world revolved around one person. His mother, Sabrina. She wasn't perfect, she wasn't traditional, but she was everything to him. The love, the protection, the structure, the fire that shaped him into the man he is. She was fiercely independent, hustling in a world that didn't give second chances, raising her son the only way she knew how. And then, she was gone. At just 8 years old, Curtis Jackson lost the only parent he had ever known. Not slowly, not peacefully, violently, mysteriously. Traumatic enough to change the trajectory of his life forever. Every interview, every documentary, every song he's ever written makes one thing clear. Her death broke him. Her absence hardened him. Her memory became sacred. So when a young man like King Harris, like a boy who has both parents alive, wealthy, privileged, raised with more opportunities than most people dream of, decides to mock 50 Cent's childhood and specifically mention not having a real mother, it didn't hit like shade. It hit like reopening a wound that never healed. This didn't come out of nowhere. King Harris has been spiraling for months. People watched him transform from a goofy, an energetic kid into a reckless, defiant, attention-hungry teen, desperate to prove something. Always online, always arguing, always chasing controversy. And every time someone told him to calm down, to humble himself, to respect the legacy he inherited, he doubled down. He wanted to be feared, respected, taken seriously. So he started imitating the worst parts of street culture without understanding any of it. And that's the tragic irony. King is trying to act tough in front of a man who lived everything King only pretends to know. But King Harris didn't just wake up disrespectful one day. His behavior has roots too. He grew up famous, before he was even old enough to talk. The cameras, the expectations, the pressure, the comparisons to his father T.I., it all shaped him. And instead of growing into that legacy, King began rebelling against it. He pushed back hard. Every year, louder and louder, testing limits, testing authority, testing his own parents. Somewhere along the way, respect stopped being part of his vocabulary, and that's when he did the one thing no one expected. He took aim at 50 Cent. The disrespectful video wasn't subtle, it wasn't accidental, it wasn't a misunderstanding, it was deliberate. King sat in front of the camera, smirking, laughing with friends, saying, 50 acts tough but didn't even have a real mom around. How that's why he's so emotional. As soon as the words left his mouth, the room shifted. Even his own friends looked uncomfortable, because everyone knows one rule in hip-hop and street culture. You don't talk about someone's dead mother. That's not roasting. That's not trolling. That's not funny. That's a death line. And King crossed it while laughing. When the clip hit the internet, people expected 50 Cent to react the way he always does. A meme, a clapback, a joke, a brutal caption. But he didn't. For the first time in years, he responded like a man, not a celebrity. He went live on camera, sat still for a moment, looked down, and when he finally spoke, his voice wasn't sharp. It was soft. You don't talk about my mother, he said. You don't say her name like that. He didn't insult King. He didn't threaten him. He didn't even raise his voice. He just looked broken. And that's when the world remembered something they had forgotten. Behind the jokes, behind the trolling, behind the empire, 50 Cent is still a son who lost the only person who ever fought for him. Fans weren't prepared for that level of vulnerability. They weren't prepared to see him pause mid-sentence like he was holding back tears. They weren't prepared to see the man who mocks everyone suddenly look wounded. But that wasn't even the full story. Because while the public was reacting to 50's pain, insiders were whispering something else. He wasn't just hurt by King's words. He was hurt because King doesn't understand the price of losing a mother. And he watched King disrespect his own mother in the past. This wasn't just about the 50's past. It was about King's present, his behavior, his lack of direction, his disrespect toward women, including his own family. 50 wasn't just talking about Sabrina. He was warning King, you don't appreciate what you have. And that truth, spoken quietly, emotionally, painfully, is what turned this viral moment into a cultural earthquake. But the real twist comes next. Because someone close to 50 Cent says he didn't just break down on camera, he made a phone call afterward. A call that shocked everyone who heard it. When 50 Cent ended that heartbreaking live stream, the one where his voice cracked, his eyes softened, and the weight of his mother's memory hung heavy in the silence, the internet assumed that was the end of it, and a rare emotional moment from a man who never lets people see him vulnerable. Something he'd move on from and close off, bury again like he's done for the last 3 decades. But insiders say the livestream wasn't the end, it was the beginning, because as soon as the camera turned off, 50 sat there. Quiet. Still. Processing something deeper than anger. According to a source in his inner circle, he stared at the screen for nearly a full minute, clenched his jaw, and then said under his breath, "That boy don't know what line he crossed." And then he made a phone call. Not to a friend, not to a publicist, not to a lawyer, not to a producer on one of his shows. He called someone directly connected to the Harris family. And that is where the story twists into something nobody saw coming. The insider, who claims to have overheard part of the conversation, said 50's tone was nothing like the live stream. It wasn't soft anymore. It wasn't emotional. It was controlled, calculated, cold. Put his father on the phone, 50 said. Not, can you speak to him? Not, let me talk to him when he's free. Not, tell him to call me back. He demanded it, because 50 didn't want to speak to King. He wanted to speak to the man who raised him. He wanted T.I. And according to the insider, the moment T.I. answered the phone, the energy shifted like two tectonic plates colliding. 50 didn't yell, he didn't insult, he didn't gloat. He simply said, "You need to get your boy." The insider claims there was a long pause, the kind of pause where two men who have lived entire lives in the streets understand exactly what is being communicated without saying it directly. T.I. finally responded, "He crossed the line, I know." But 50 wasn't done. He continued, "I don't talk about people's mothers. I don't talk about the dead. He spoke on mine. So now you and me, we gotta talk." This wasn't beef. This wasn't a threat. This wasn't a feud. This was a man communicating pain in the most direct way possible. And that's when the first major twist hit. Because according to the source, 50 told T.I., "Your boy don't understand what it means to grow up without a mother. He don't understand what that loss is, but you should. Because you know exactly what it feels like to lose someone too early." T.I. reportedly went silent. And here's where it gets wild. Someone very close to the Harris family later revealed why T.I.'s silence was so heavy. T.I. has had a private, unspoken respect for 50 Cent for years. Because Sabrina Jackson, 50's mother, and a relative of T.I.'s, knew each other back in the day. Not close, not family-like, but familiar. There was a strange hidden link between their pasts, something only old heads in Atlanta and Queens knew. And that connection made King's disrespect feel even worse. It wasn't just crossing a line. It was crossing a line between two family histories that were never supposed to collide. But the conflict didn't end with the phone call. Because while the two fathers were having their tense conversation, King Harris was online, laughing. He went live again, mocking the situation, shrugging it off, joking with friends. At one point he said, "Man, 50 too old to be crying. I ain't scared of him." When fans told him to stop, he rolled his eyes. He a grown man emotional over a mama he ain't even know. "I said what I said." Those words traveled fast, and they reached 50 Cent within minutes. Insiders say 50 didn't even flinch. He simply forwarded the live to T.I. with the caption, "This is why I called you." That's when things exploded privately in the Harris household. People close to the family claim T.I. ran out of a room when he saw the clip. He stormed through the house yelling, "Where King at? Where he at?" Tiny tried to intervene but couldn't stop him. Their argument was loud enough that neighbors later reported shouting, slamming, and someone crying. King wasn't crying. T.I. was. Because for the first time in this entire saga, I realized King didn't understand respect. He didn't understand boundaries. He didn't understand grief. He didn't understand the weight of the words he used for attention. And the second major twist, to highlight, I wasn't mad because King disrespected 50. And he was mad because King disrespected a dead black woman. A mother, a sister, a daughter. Someone who didn't deserve to be dragged into childish clout wars. But the real shock came later that night. An anonymous account, claiming to be a former G-Unit associate, dropped the following message. 50 crying was not weakness. That man been holding on to guilt about his mother for decades. King hit a nerve deeper than anyone realized. Then they added, and what 50 said to T.I. on that call, yet he meant it. That message turned the internet into a frenzy. Because now fans started speculating. Did 50 threaten King? Did he warn T.I.? Did he demand something? Did he call for a meeting? Was this beef turning into something bigger? But the insider clarified, no, it wasn't violent. It was worse. He told T.I., teach your son what loss feels like before life teaches him for real. A chilling line. A prophetic one. One that echoed across social media like a thunderclap. But the first twist of this chapter comes at the very end. Because another anonymous source, one tied to a major hip-hop producer, dropped this. 50 didn't make just one phone call. He made two. The second call, not to T.I., not to Tiny, not to a label, not to a blogger. To someone from King's childhood. Someone who knew King before fame. someone who knows secrets about his past, someone King never wanted in the public eye, and that person is now preparing to speak. And when news broke that 50 Cent made a second phone call after breaking down on camera, fans, journalists, bloggers, everybody went into full detective mode. Who did he call? Why was the call private? Why did insiders say King never wanted this person speaking publicly? What connection could possibly be deep enough to shake King Harris more than 50 Cent himself? It didn't take long for the answer to surface, because the second call wasn't to a celebrity, it wasn't to a label executive, and it wasn't to a street figure. The second call was to someone who knew King before the internet did, before the tattoos, before the attitude, before the ego and tough guy persona. 50 Cent called King's first nanny, a woman named Miss Angela, someone King had not spoken to in years, someone T.I. reportedly hasn't allowed around the family since King turned 9, someone who raised King more than his parents during his early childhood years. And insiders claim 50 found her number through one of his own childhood connections who happened to know someone from Atlanta's old childcare network. When Miss Angela answered, her first words were, "Curtis, I haven't heard your voice in ages. Why are you calling about that boy?" Because yes, she knew 50 Cent long before he was famous. Their mothers knew each other. They lived in overlapping social circles within the black working-class communities of the late 70s and early 80s. And when 50 asked for the truth, she gave it. According to the insider familiar with the conversation, Miss Angela sighed deeply and said, "King isn't disrespectful because he's rebellious. He's disrespectful because he's broken." That sentence alone sent shockwaves through the room. 50 stayed silent. Miss Angela continued, "He used to cry every night when you weren't around back then. He hated being compared to you. He felt overshadowed. He felt like no matter what he did, he wasn't enough." 50 reportedly whispered, "I didn't know that." Miss Angela replied, "He didn't want anyone to know." And this is where the story turns, because Miss Angela revealed a secret, one that King has spent years trying to bury. King Harris wasn't always the loud, cocky, chaotic kid the internet sees today. In his earliest years, he was shy, he was sensitive, he was insecure, and he was terrified of disappointing his father. According to Miss Angela, King once told me, at 6 years old, if I act tough, Dad will think I'm strong like him. 50 reportedly closed his eyes hearing that, because for the first time, he understood something the world didn't. King's entire persona, the tough talk, the bravado, the fights, the disrespect, was built on a childhood insecurity he never grew out of. Miss Angela continued, "When his mother or I tried to correct him, he'd say, 'I don't want to be soft. Soft people get hurt.' Then, when he got older and social media praised his chaos, it only fed the insecurity." 50 asked, "So why he say what he said about my mother?" Miss Angela took a long breath. "Because attacking you is the only thing that makes him feel bigger." Those words hit like a bullet. It reframed the entire scandal. King didn't disrespect 50 because he wanted to hurt him. He disrespected 50 because he wanted to become him. But the story didn't stop there. Or because while 50 was uncovering King's past, a new video leaked. And it changed everything. A behind-the-scenes recording from the very live stream where 50 broke down. Someone from G-Unit, possibly a cameraman or assistant, recorded 50 after the live stream ended, slumped in his chair, rubbing his face, whispering words no one ever thought they would hear from him. He said, "I failed my son, and now I'm watching another boy make the same mistakes." The internet screamed. "Actually, what son? He talking about Marquise? Oh, this is deeper. This is about his own trauma." 50's relationship with his biological son, Marquise Jackson, has been publicly destroyed for years. They don't speak. They don't reconcile. They barely acknowledge each other. Fans have always speculated 50 regretted how that relationship ended. But hearing him say it privately, hearing him connect his pain to King Harris, That was the reveal of the year. As he continued, I don't want that boy to end up hating his father like mine hates me. This cycle gotta stop. No one, not even his biggest fans, expected a clip like this. Meanwhile, King went live again. But this time he wasn't laughing. He was furious. He was pacing back and forth, shirt off, eyes wide, clearly rattled. Y'all got 50 acting like he my daddy or something. He crying about his mom, okay? Ish, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Fans immediately jumped into the comments. BRO, stop talking. You making this worse. You don't know what he went through. You sound heartless. But King didn't slow down. Instead, he said something that shocked everyone. Man, I ain't asked him to call nobody from my past. Y'all weird for bringing my nanny into this. He slipped. He confirmed the second phone call, which meant everything Miss Angela said was real. T.I. exploded behind the scenes. My Tiny cried. King's siblings were embarrassed. Insiders claimed the family had to take King's phone to stop him. But the damage was done. The internet had the backstory. They had the trauma. They had the emotional depth. They had the private clip of 50 crying off camera. They had the nanny confirmation. And then, the real shock dropped. A new insider revealed 50 didn't just call the nanny, and he called someone else afterwards. Someone who knows a secret about King that could end his entire tough guy persona. Someone from his childhood school. Someone who remembers an incident King once begged to keep hidden. And that person is preparing to speak out next. The cliffhanger? The insider ended with, if this story comes out, King Harris will never be able to act tough again. The moment King Harris accidentally confirmed that 50 Cent really did call his childhood nanny, the internet exploded like a bomb. This wasn't gossip anymore. This wasn't jokes. This wasn't drama for clicks. This was a grown man, a legend, reaching into a young man's past to understand the root of his pain. And that level of vulnerability from 50 shocked everyone. Celebrities reacted fast. Charlemagne said on The Breakfast Club, if 50 called the nanny, oh yeah, this is therapy disguised as beef. Boosie hopped online instantly. King my lil partner, but if 50 trying to help him, let him. And that boy need OG guidance. Meek Mill tweeted, that nanny convo hit different. We all got somebody from childhood who know the real us. Even Kevin Hart chimed in. This ain't beef no more. This a whole intervention delivered through the internet. But the reaction that really mattered came from T.I. himself. And insiders say it happened off camera. According to multiple sources in Atlanta, T.I. pulled up to a private location to meet with 50 Cent face-to-face. No cameras, no entourage, no internet. Theatrics. Just two grown men with decades of history, pain, ego, and respect sitting across from each other. The meeting lasted 47 minutes. Not one picture leaked. Not one video, not one quote. But a source close to T.I. revealed the only thing Tip said when he walked out. That man ain't my enemy, but my son, he crossed a line he don't understand. Meanwhile, King Harris was online unraveling. He posted a rant. Man, why everybody trying to dig into my childhood? Y'all lame for using my past against me. I ain't that lil boy no more. But the comments destroyed him. Your past explains your present. Your nanny exposed your insecurities. Stop acting tough. You hurting inside. You not ready for grown man consequences. Then the Atlanta streets started whispering. Because when 50 Cent called the nanny, he also contacted someone else. Someone who remembered a specific incident from King's childhood. And that rumor began spreading like wildfire. On barbershops, studios, trap houses, podcast circles. Everyone kept repeating the same phrase. Y'all know about the playground story? Fans didn't know what that meant, but industry people did. And the version that leaked publicly was terrifyingly vague. When King was little, something happened at school that humiliated him so bad, he swore he'd never be weak again. Influencers reposted the rumor instantly. What happened on the playground? Is that why King acts out? Is that the secret 50 is about to expose? While social media spiraled, 50 Cent stayed quiet, which only made the situation more intense. Because when 50 stops joking, when he stops trolling, when he stops posting, it means something is brewing. And then it happened. A paparazzi caught a glimpse of 50 Cent getting into a car while someone asked, "You really talked to his nanny?" 50 didn't joke, didn't smile, didn't troll, and he just said, "That boy hurting, he don't even know how deep." The internet lost it. OMG, he's talking about King's trauma. 50 trying to save him? This beef turned into therapy real quick. But while the world was focusing on 50, another monster was growing behind the scenes. King's own childhood friends started speaking out. One posted, "Bruh always had a chip on his shoulder since 2nd grade. Y'all don't even know why." Another said, "That playground rumor? 100% true. I was there. He ain't been the same since." Another dropped the most chilling message yet. "He got jumped when he was a kid and never told nobody who did it." Wait. Jumped? Bullied? Humiliated? Suddenly the playground secret wasn't a rumor. It was a trauma. King saw the rumors spreading and went live immediately. Red-faced, angry, trying way too hard to sound in control. "I wasn't jumped. Ain't nobody touched me. Stop lying on my name." But fans noticed something. He was shaking, he kept swallowing, kept rubbing his hands, kept pacing. His voice cracked more than once. Commenters flooded the chat. He scared. He embarrassed. He hiding something. That playground story true. This exposes everything about his behavior. Then his nanny, Miss Angela herself, finally broke her silence. A blogger posted a DM from her saying, "I will not expose the details of his childhood, but I will say this. A child who grows up scared of being seen as weak becomes a man who attacks others before they attack him." And that was the first time the internet collectively felt empathy for King Harris. But the sympathy didn't last long, because Blueface, always adding gasoline, posted a tweet laughing at King. Not the playground story coming out. The internet erupted. "Blueface, you a demon. You mocking a childhood trauma? You worse than King. T.I. I gon' fight you next." Meanwhile, Jaguar Wright, who inserts herself into every storm, posted a dark message. King Harris is about to face the same thing Curtis Jackson faced as a child. Abandonment. That eerie sentence sent chills down the timeline. But the chaos wasn't done, because late that night, a new leak hit the internet. A grainy, low-quality clip of 50 Cent during the closed-door meeting with T.I. You can barely hear him, but one sentence is crystal clear. If he keeps going down this path, you're gonna lose him. Not to the streets, not to the cops, to himself. Fans lost their minds. 50 knows something we don't. Is King dangerous to himself? Did the playground trauma go deeper? What did 50 learn from the nanny? Then the biggest twist of the section dropped. A producer who overheard the aftermath of the T.I.-50 meeting said, 50 didn't just warn T.I. He asked him a question that shook him completely. The question? It was this. When did you realize your son stopped feeling loved? And the producer said T.I. didn't answer. He just put his head down. By the time the internet reached peak chaos over whispers of the playground incident, the truth was already on its way. It didn't come from a blogger. It didn't come from a podcaster. It didn't come from a random classmate. The truth hit from a source no one expected. A retired school counselor who had worked at King Harris's elementary school. She DM'd a major gossip page with a voice note, trembling voice, saying, "I wasn't going to say anything, but maybe this will help people understand why he acts like he does." And then she revealed it. The real playground story wasn't just bullying, it wasn't just teasing, it wasn't just getting jumped. It was worse. According to the counselor, and when King was in second grade, a group of older kids cornered him on the playground and stole his backpack. The backpack his nanny had packed for him, the one with his favorite toys, snacks, and a note she left inside every day saying, "You are loved, you are brave, you are enough." The older boys ripped the note up in front of him. King burst into tears and tried to get the paper back, but they pushed him in the dirt, calling him soft, spoiled, and privileged. One said, "You ain't tough like your daddy, you a baby." King was humiliated. He didn't tell his parents, he didn't tell his nanny, he didn't tell a teacher. But the counselor saw it on the surveillance footage and spoke with him privately afterward. She said he looked up at her with tears streaming down his cheeks and whispered, "I'm not weak. I promise I'm not weak." And that was the moment King changed. That's the day he decided to never cry again, the counselor said. That's the day the tough persona was born. When the voice note leaked, the internet stopped mocking King. For the first time, people understood the fragility behind the bravado. But King, he snapped. He went live, shaking, furious, defensive, eyes glassy, screaming, "Stop talking about my childhood. I ain't no victim. Y'all try and make me look soft." But the internet wasn't mocking him anymore. They were pleading, "Bro, I nobody clowning you. We get why you act how you do. You need healing, not hate." This explains everything. King wasn't hearing any of it. Instead, he turned his anger toward the one man whose compassion accidentally exposed him. 50 Cent. "You think you know me now?" King yelled at the camera. "You don't get to talk about me like you my dad. You don't know what I've been through." And then he said the sentence that broke the internet. "My real father don't even know the stuff y'all talking about, so why 50 think he the one who got to step in?" That clip spread instantly, because buried inside his rage was the real truth. King felt abandoned long before the playground. He felt unseen. He felt misunderstood. He felt like the world expected him to be a carbon copy of his father. And every time he fell short, he turned the pain into anger. But while King was melting down publicly, something else was happening behind the scenes. A voicemail from T.I. leaked. A voicemail meant for someone he trusted. A voicemail he never thought the world would hear. A voicemail that revealed his truth in this entire mess. In a tired, cracking voice, T.I. said, "I don't know how to help my son no more. He stopped listening to me a long time ago. I think I lost him. And I don't know when it happened." The voicemail got quieter and you can hear him exhale shakily. "I failed him somewhere. And now Curtis looking at me like it's my fault. Maybe it is. Maybe I ain't been the father he needed. I don't know. I'm trying." Fans were shattered. This wasn't a celebrity feud anymore. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't entertainment. This was a broken father confessing his biggest fear. He had lost his son emotionally, and he didn't know if he'd ever get him back. But the voicemail wasn't the final twist. Right as the internet began absorbing T.I.'s heartbreaking confession, a new message dropped from an account claiming to be someone who was present at the secret meeting between 50 Cent and T.I. They posted one chilling sentence. 50 didn't come to check King. He came to warn Tip. Warn him? About what? And the account elaborated. He told T.I., "Your son is on the same path as mine, and if you don't reach him soon, you're going to wake up one day and he won't be reachable." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't beef. It was a prophecy from a man who had already lived it. And the cliffhanger? The anonymous account ended with, "And then 50 handed Tip a piece of paper with a name on it. The name of the person King has secretly been meeting with. A person who has been fueling his behavior. A person whose involvement would shock the world. Who is that person? Why are they influencing King? And what did 50 Cent uncover that made him step in like a father figure?" And now that the truth is unraveling piece by piece, the playground trauma, the nanny reveal, the leaked 50 Cent footage, the meltdown from King, and the heartbreaking voicemail from T.I., we're standing right in the middle of a story that's no longer about disrespect. It's about a father, a son, and the painful cracks that fame has exposed. And this is where you come in, because this conversation is far bigger than gossip now. It's about healing, accountability, broken generational cycles, and the kids who grow up in the shadow of icons. So I want you to stop what you're doing and jump into the comments right now, because this is a discussion the entire internet is waiting for. Do you think King Harris is truly a villain? Or is he a kid who's been hurting for a long time? Do you think 50 Cent stepped in as an OG? Or did he go too far by digging into King's childhood? Do you think Ty failed his son? Or is King old enough that he has to take responsibility for his actions now? And the biggest question of all, who is the mysterious person secretly influencing King? The name on that piece of paper 50 handed to T.I. Drop your theories below, don't hold back. Your comment might be the one that blows up and becomes the center of the next chapter. And listen, if you've been locked into this entire journey, if you felt that shift when 50 talked about loss, if your heart dropped when T.I.'s voicemail leaked, if you see the pain under King's anger, then make sure you like this video so this story reaches the people who need to see it. Hit subscribe because we break these stories down faster and deeper than anybody else on YouTube. And when the truth about the name 50 revealed, the person secretly fueling King's downward spiral, finally comes out, I promise you, we will be right here analyzing every detail. Turn on all notifications because the next update isn't just big. It's the chapter that could change King Harris's entire life forever.